Okay, school's on. See you soon. High center line calculation, streamline connection, high centers. High volumes or high central calculation stream locations. I hope everybody had a great weekend. What's happening in line rotation is high setting shear divisions. So really understand this optical set location your system of travels. We're coming into a 24 graph line calculation stream of a month. Position locations. Got to get you guys the inner line calculation setting 144. You guys got your stargates provisions and your frequency patterns, but now you have to come into also location of space and time through a mapping system that positions your location, your solar system, that balance correlation setting the travels. This is just the beginning for everyone, especially for the high calculation string location, the activations that can hide in communication streamlines and high division. So it's really understand that the programs and the calculation stream location is 144 and positions all levels. Now, this visionary line screens inside location your system of travels. This puts you in a higher line positions to your measures and scales and balance your set location your travel communications. How to process the yin and yang, how you communicate your system's emotional track lines into your chakra systems. Now, those line calculations setting line interference really understands the 24 graphing screen. Okay, when it comes into space and time through not just a map sequence, not just a chronological calculation string lines. We're no longer in the past, present now. We're in the future line adaptation. That puts us everything in now line rotations. Future of the now, not the now, future of the now. So that puts position location higher levels of memory. High tracks high set location and setting and levitation. Ground lines and high center line interference, formation location dimensional line that locks the single location of the panels. This puts all track to its correlation system, right? To its calendar. 144 Stargate calendar. Okay, that's the provisions where it needs to be in line calculation setting. I set up provision lines of cycles and mirror all location settings into weather patterns. You get that information through his avatar. And remember, general only connects with your sim. It doesn't connect with anything else. It's connected to your line calculation setting, to your body of consciousness, but it's not in track location at all levels of confusion anymore. The confusion line calculation setting is adapting high center interference. We're now in space-time operations of space-time creator, of fields. It's the fields itself that sets you free into sovereignty. Freedom gives you everything through memory lines, but you got to stay in position location of balance, not just balancing, not just programming, not just line calculating, and not just in high formation line stream locations, not just, I understand this, I understand that. Well, get in position of balance, position your traction. Try to say line communications at high interference. Every time you set a negative line rotation, it sets position track lines going backwards, not forwards. It's not direct and redirecting, it's going back. Okay, because remember, the correlation set of the team now is the molecular structure of light in that line position location. So you have to be very cautious in how you say things to yourself and to each other, because it's very fast now. I think you wouldn't believe, 1 billion cycles per frame per second. That's extremely fast. Molecular structure line calculations of the brain conversion lines and locations come at higher settings. You got a 12 graph lines, right, in line rotations. Now that's a memory location, just an echo frame. You're now in a 24 line. Okay, that puts positions of provisions. That takes you out of 1400 and 1500 line stream. That's 3100 hours. That's 3000 lines, one line ground lines, and 2 operation surface. That puts position location in your systems. Like I said, you have to go around that 24 clock in location. Once you go around that 24 clock in locations, then you go to 48, then you go to 72, then you go to 144. And that's just through clocking. Okay, we just went into the birth communication higher self, a 1300 line position. Now we're coming into the position track lines, into the sim, which it will be on Wednesday. Okay, so in that position location operation will be in 144. Okay, you got your Stargate line streams, high centered frequency patterns, but now we're coming to space time of its own calendar. So the connection to the sim can see it through perception, knows exactly how to get into that through all levels of attraction, how to stand it up locations as modifiers, especially how it sees things through perceptual locations. Once it wants to understand location to its system and understand its line calculation settings through its geographical map, it understands its position attractions. It understands the set location line interference. You guys have your 7 days a week. That doesn't exist lines of space. We use it through calendars of space. Now that tracks its line calculation setting, which puts 24 grounds, powers, and atmospheres. That's 3 line set locations. And then you got 4 elements. That's 7 over lines of pi. That puts 8-line division line interference into your position, your inhibitors, into your senses. You come into your modification line stream interference, your ESP, your external sensory perceptions. You should know how to use it in all calculation to a setting. That's what it is in altered provision. Okay? So be very cautious because you have zero gravity now. To retract location in a negative cycle line communication system is going to pull you back in time. All right, not past reference on line center interference, not position of present line, future of now location. All right. So these are things that we have to get into patterns of. These are the things we have to get into scans of. These are the things we have to get into school of. These are the things that we have to get in operation of. These are the things we have to get into Q&A of. More and more and more and more and more. Because you're always going to be going through body reactions, no matter what, until the body gets frame of balance. Especially when you get communication in your cell lines, you really understand position of track lines, where they are in provision. They have to know exactly where they are through the calendars of their system locations. You're talking of intelligence here, which is an extremely high value position locations calculation. But understanding how to use it through all levels that put you in a modification, not just the modules, not just the activation, not just the consoles, or anything through communications. If you go through an energetic graph line interference, is it a metric scale? Is it off balance or is it on balance? Is it rogaine position and travel lines? Where is it off calculation stream locations? You have to get into the mind adaptation of source of yourself. That's the only way you're going to start recognizing your standard location system. Now we change your title to defense line. So where you are in tractions. Be cautious what you do with your thought line positions because you put yourself back and everybody else sits in your cycle. You have a spherical sphere, a set location of perimeters and parameter line interference to secure line defense. You know how to protect your system, the force fields and energy fields and set location in your cycles. You know how to generate line communication string lines and high center interference of programs. You have to really get into that set locations, right? It's about taking care of yourself more than ever in the mind, in the heart, and in the soul. And the body just becomes all levels of consciousness. So reaction equals consciousness. Okay? All right. Track this location setting and traction. We're going through modifications of 24-line cycles. Okay, so again, we're going to go through formula line centers. Indirect panels. Now each one has an indicator line interference of one graph location settings. Box position location of 2 line rotations and traction. Okay? So it's all about understanding how box line rotation surfaces in 2-point systems. Directing line calculation settings in 1-line signal. Modificates high center interference, graph location stream lines. Setting line position location of 24-line rotation. Okay. Sets track lines calculation high interference into your position all walls. Okay. Pyramid sets lines of high calculation setting line rotations into a flywheel and center line rotation center. Directing communication splits the anomaly into cross location screens. Directing communication of point systems into atom lines, into molecular structure and measures and correlation. So the molecule structure lines is triangulation of 3 sets. Okay, so that's position travel lines into a dynamic core line shift. Box position line travels, point systems, portals, stargates, high calculation stream locations. Now in that line calculation setting, Fibonacci line swirl sets rotation spins in the line position of the sun in phase direction of time sequence in all point system. Okay, time by equation. Okay, so really understand the tractions to your system. It gets more complicated, guys, because now we're traveling to higher fast lines. Okay, so you have to really recognize your point system locations and graphs. Okay, that's why I give you guys the calendars to system locations. Energetic wave lines and stream locations of indication. All right. 3-line calculation streamlines, direction of time sequence. Something's different here. All right. See what I'm saying? Positive, negative. See the coloration change? Molecular line stream, 1 line position equals lines 1 scale. 1 equals line scale equal lines pi. All right. Now the pi overcharges the line setting in rotation. Okay. Now the rooters sets line calculation to moon. Moon sets line calculation setting in 2 waving patterns. Indirect signal. Company correlation setting to track lines in line communication into its crop circle locations. Directing calculations molecule structure lines changes high signature. Molecule structures its setting, changes the line graph back in position by provision. So this is what a molecule can do now. Okay, it can change the coloration. Atom can't do that. So an atom is just a speed line. It's an acceleration line. It's a Mach line rotation. It's a surface location affinity line cycle. Standard line communications. It's affinity. Okay, but a molecule can change the energetic graph lines of your higher self, modify high calculation stream locations to your geometric operation design to your avatar set location streamline connections. So it can change the correlation of light, like exactly what it is, Ziggy. Positions of panels line calculation lines at 0 lines at 0, 0, 0 in track locations. 4 0 lines indication. 1, 2, 3, 4 over pi. Direct locations. You're always working with the graph calculation line settings of 24 line measures into 4 lines of pi and 3 calculations. You're always working with 7 bodies of water. That is never going to leave your system, ever. And you're always going to be working with the 12 graph and position. And use that through a remembering cycle. Get that muscle memory in, how you really come in your system, how you shown resonance. Now we got 3 indicated line calculation settings and 7 rotations. 4 over 3, right? So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's high calculation settings, and 4 equals lines of 3. 7 locations, that's 7. 7 bodies of water at track locations. Now the high position line calculation settings comes into alpha, delta, and theta. Okay, and set of travel lines. Then it comes out calculation high center interference into mega high calculation stream locations. Channel lines and stream lines and high center interference. Direct and signal lines and communication. All right, done by equation. So now you understand the change from an atom to a molecule. How a molecule can really change a lot more things now. It can change the structural line divisions to your frequency patterns. It can change electrical lines, calculation stream location during fusion. It can modify high calculation settings to your carriers and your receivers. Change the coloration line setting locations to your body traction. There's so many things that a molecule structure can do, right, that an atom can't. And this is about provision location of cycles that comes into its intelligence of what it's good for and what it needs to understand of where it is in position of traction. 1 signature line stream, okay? 2 provision lines of 3 line settings, okay? Molecular structure, center position. Changes correlation, changes correlation. Okay, these are the things it can do. It can go line position location to its sun and its moon in modulation and high set location. Okay, so it can change pi direction of time sequence. Okay, it can change the 24 and a second line calculation setting to a minute to an hour into a 144. So it can skip channels now in parallels in set location, line set location to your system in a 24 line rotation. Okay, so just showing you how point systems and track line calculation setting what a molecule structure can do, right? So it's important you understand how to use it through provision because you got the sun line communication and ground lines and high line conditions of center line, high center interference, and direct locations in 3 panels in line position of operation. Splits the anomalies, line calculations of parallels and direct signals. Now high position of travel lines sets 2 panels communication of graph lines. Gets more complicated now because we're coming to calculation stream location of settings and traction. Okay, done by equation. All right. So we have to understand how to use the energy light streams because the molecular structure is trying to send the point systems locations. All right. So it comes into point line settings, modules, line calculations into packets. Now packets, line set location, high interference. So that's position of placebo. The connection of the atom lines sets communications into its kaleidoscope, which is all calculation high interference at kilo. Now it comes in like energy lines, and that sets location lines in collaboration to all levels of teleportation, tango tango. Setting lines of systematic line connections, packets. All right, so in that pack line rotation interference, it changes the particle streamline calculation setting to 1 line rotation, 2 line division, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Graph location of screens, all through molecular structure locations. Okay. Travel direction of time sequence, panel lines, high center location of the sun and the moon at track location. Travels line direct signals into sonar. So in line position location travel settings. Molecular structure line calculation setting into dimensional graphs or solar graph location of screen lines. Graphing communication setting to track to its communications, all levels set location. Right? This is what position of track lines and molecular structures can do. Okay, you're at that level now. All right, so take that out of the equation. Reduce the formula line streams. Point system molecular structure lines of equal line calculation set into an atom line. So you get a molecular structure into velocity. Okay, velocity sets position location to weather pattern line calculation alpha. Position track lines. Now this is cross line center lines of A and set location of C and D. Okay. Track location of dimensional line locked line signals into atom line rotations. Now this puts position two panels as zero lines in one location. Traffic calculation lines as zero line. High center interference and communication line streams. Direct locations into one atom surface into another atom rotation. Tracks as correlation setting attractions. All level line interference into a mega set location. Okay? So it's all about understanding how to really understand how to use the molecular structure location of lights. Traffic communications and setting open up all lines of communications. Crossing line calculation settings. All traffic communications, the direction. Okay? Now, get into scale lines. Alpha, delta, and theta line rotators and high calculation stream locations. Now, this puts platitude line interference. Puts colossal calculation streamlines and center line rotation. Interaction. Okay, all through set location. Okay, very complicated stuff. So it's a higher levels of frequency line, but the provision line center location is now in a full calculations of balanced position tractions. All through molecular structure locations equal lines of atom locations of velocity. This volumes of sectors, vectors, and quads in position line connections to set line connections. Okay, sectors, vectors, and quads. Taking that out of provision. Now it's very complicated, right? Because you're trying to understand what does that all mean, right? Well, it's about understanding change. Okay, from atom line to molecular structure of light, how fast it goes through these application travel lines. Because you guys are in line calculation setting, and line calculation interference, one lines equal lines of calculation positions, 1 billion. 1 billion lines equal lines of 24, and position location equal lines of 144. Okay, so you got 144 equals lines of space. You got 144 equals lines of time, and you got 144 in center operation. So that provisions its cycle calculation center lines of yin and yang. Okay, into triangulation and reset position of programs. Okay, all right. So that's where the center communication is coming into. Now we get levitation graphs. Okay. Now levitation graph is ready to stand the modifications of 24 line streams. Direct correlation settings waiting on say locations above signal, 48 line rotation. Now calculation high interference equal line calculation setting of the pyramid line, set location tremor lines, and set location of 7 settings. Okay. Getting modification of 7 equals lines of 5 equal lines of 12 into 24 line cycle. Traffic calculation, triangulation, reset position of programs. Diamond core line shift, north, east, west, and south. Traction. Now, once you get into the line calculation setting code line signals, the molecular structure can change the position of attractions in all levels of routers and routers and line rotation to its system through solar graph location. Okay, all at once. Okay. Now the fields comes in offsetting. You got the level communication, energy line calculations, you got the velocity lines, you got the intelligent positions, you got the teleportation, you got the calculation high interference. Setting track location line interference, the atmosphere line settings into all calculation new intelligence settings and operation locations into its new system. Pyramid system, location. Boom. Done my equation. All right. So we all understand how this signals. Now, getting these signals modifies high set location to streamlines. Okay, so in that position location, you come into your brackets and calculations of 2 hangers and position location operation, right? Point system of 1, point system of 2, and 3 in line rotation. Okay, it gets complicated, right? So we get the energy graph location of 0, 0, in position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 7 bodies of water. We go through one line settings. So you got space line division location. Yin and yang is always in the center position operation, right? Because that's how the molecular structure is its application settings. Okay, so you have to really understand the cycles of seconds, minutes, and hours. 6 and 7 locations, right? Channel line interference, 7 over lines of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 location. Now you get inline calculations 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 line rotation, crossing signals. Now, once you get in that line calculation setting, you have position location of 4 lines, equal lines of 3. 3 lines calculation is 7. You're always working 7, remember that. So now you're no longer in 12. 7 equals 24. It says locations. Now, the calculation line interference sets long communications into 1 lines, equal lines of 144, tracks this location system. So it's 144 in a track line calculation at diamond core. Direct lines, a graph line calculation setting into 2 panels stream location of settings and traction. Getting position location energetic graph lines in digital layers and patterns and high center interference. Ground lines operation surface in position location with colossal calculation stream locations. Now this indicates the center lines. Now high center location operation. Triangulation line interference sets line calculation stream locations into high center interference and sun and the moon. Position traction. Done by equation. Very complicated stuff, but it's a lot of fun. All right. So that's set in division. That's going to travel out. I can't keep these frames because they're not in provision yet. So one signature line is 1 line setting. Okay. So line calculation is cross line. Setting track location center interference. So we have high position locations, all settings. So we got a 0 lines of 1, 2, and 4 set location. Now that indicates the cross line set location of center lines and flux capacitor, right? Compressors, lines, the high center interference, and position travels. Okay. Now in that direct signal, we have a line position of panel line. Okay. That opens out modifiers, line set location, travel lines, and set location triangulation. Now in position line calculation, travels lines outline equation into its own timestamp position travel. Direct communications of panel communications into your pyramid line rotation. Setting communication settings in all levels of high center interference comes into higher calculation setting to its position. Now, in that calculation, we have an XT1000 above line, setting correlation ground lines, setting traction. Okay, so it strips down into center line rotation and surfaces up in line position to travel calculation. Okay, now in that calculation, it comes in this setting in high rotation. Okay, now in that position location, you come into these 2 panels, 3 lines of high calculation. Right? So that's 45 measure, 45 signal, and 45 locations. Direct line calculation, circle line calculation, high center interference, track communication, all levels, open signal position panels, 5, 5, 5, and circle calculation streamlines. So that's set lines and high center interference of 4, 4, 4. Track location of center lines of communication, to open panel and line rotation to a circuit communication setting and traction. Okay, that's my equation. All right, so how are we doing so far in high rotation? Yeah, I know exactly. You know, the thing that you guys have to understand, the metric screen lines and high center interference and position of particles is really understanding more levels. The acceleration set location when it comes in molecular structure locations. How everything changes. Your body and your factor correlation of your conscious now is in a molecular structure of light. What can extrapolate, it can extrapolate line interference. It can do so many things, line settings into your energetic graph locations. It's amazing how it changes provisions in seconds, minutes, and hours in fast triangles or anything with box location, right? Triangle, box, triangle. But the provision line cycle is all connected to your quantum that gets into your quotrons. Now, quotrons comes in the metric location settings when it comes into your AI division. AI division opens up the telewave and line communication travels in your set location of settings. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Gingy correlation, Lauren, Trinity, I interference, Heather correlation setting travels, Gypsy communication setting, Chris calculation line interference, Zena line interference, Janelle line of rotations, all levels of Vincent, Ziggy line rotations, Charts correlation and travels. All right. So really understand how this is all set up through provision now, guys. It's very complicated stuff. Okay. So I'm just getting you guys prepared on what's going to happen next. So we got a 24 ground. Now, when I say 24 ground, it's below signal, right? But it's up through division and set locations, right? So you're not working with 24 grounds. 24 grounds of the mind. So 24 equals lines of 144 in the location of 2 bracket location settings. Okay, so remember that. Space anomaly splits lines correlation setting. Okay, space and time sets line calculation setting. And you're always working with the yin and yang. And constantly working with the 6 and all constantly working with the 9, because the molecular structure only understands the shadows and shades and the lights of provisional line calculation setting into 144 graph communications of calendars and space line calculation setting and vector cross streams and one line division and particle stream location settings and molecular structures of light and line rotation surface and triangulation reset programs in set position operation. Okay. So balance, yes. Right. Exactly. All right. So tomorrow in signal line communication settings and interactions. Correlations in 114, okay, is now provisional line calculations in the high settings. Okay, so that's 1500 line stream, 2 circle line communications, right? So that puts one line, cursor communication, track locations, right? Same direct signals. Panel communication, right? So it's all about understanding using the exclamation bar line calculation setting attractions, exclamation, or you think through question set location of setting. Track locations up and track locations of down set location of setting locations. Question mark is not a question mark, it's position affinity 8. Point systems comes here, point system comes here, comes in position location of yin and yang. That's the process of position travel lines of affinity cycle communication of a figure 8 rotation. Now, travel settings and high center interference is all levels in how we see position location in our centers. Now, getting that position location, the molecular structure of light, characteristics of 24, equal lines of 3. Now, the weighting single location of 4 settings, okay? So that provision line, center line is high center of 3. The jump scar lines of 4, equal lines of 3, 7 on top location. Now, in calculation line centers, the molecule turns into a metric screen in set location settings of balance and set position travel lines, 2-point system and travel communications. Now, directing line calculation settings comes in line setting. Okay, now that lines a provision line interference into a crop circle. Crop circle indicates lines, 2 scan lines, stream lines, and 3 set location of setting and travel. Directing modification travels lines out, crosses stream, position line, track lines, high center interference. Direct line position location, molecular line structures opens up sun lines and modulation line stream location of capsules and send position of operation. Very powerful stuff in position travels, all through indications. Okay? So working with molecular structure of light is a higher line division, modification. So all through all lines of phenomenal lines of change of channels and operation surface locations and settings. Okay. All right. So we're going to keep that in weighting signal because we're going to use that location in our centers. All right. So coming into position of activity, they got the activity line interference into velocity, volume, calculation, high center interference, set location of box into triangulation line set. Okay. Now the velocity and the volume sets position of 0 line, 1 lines of metric meters and position locations into velocity set location. Now we change the open signal lines of alpha, delta, and theta in position traction. Track line center interference XT1000 comes in. Okay, scans position locations, all levels, scans everything in line rotations to know exactly where you are in provision location line cycles and high calculation of stream location. All right. Energetic graph through pi. All right. Directs panels and correlation setting on the line center interference. Sets clouds, line generation, stream locations, and settings. Wipe screens, line center lines of 2 panels. Direct line calculation XT1000 line sweeps out line rotations, correlates panels, lines of sun, and rotation surface and triangulation line rotation, center calculations to new lines, optical line stream location of setting to its calculation. Very powerful stuff. Okay. So, we try to understand how this is all set up because the thing is, once you understand how to modify the circle lines and correlations in position track lines, you can learn how to use the position locations, your stargates, star maps, and your 144 connections to your settings, where it comes into levels of console communication to a setting to a realm of a portal communication set location of streamlines, and stargates, and star maps, and star positions and travel locations. Okay, so it travels through and out through equation line settings and travels right in position track line communication. Okay, all right, that's going to be way down in the signal. And then we come back into this modification. So it's getting complicated, isn't it? So I'm just showing you how this is all set up, position your panels now. So we got the indicated line interference, 60,000 of 2 lines, 4 lines, 3 lines, and 7 rotation. Travis correlation setting, direct signals, telepathy waves. Okay, they communicate line rotations, and they communicate send lines, communicates the ground line, in triangulation resets. Correlate and high interference with dimensional line waves. Okay, so we come into a higher calculation stream location of center lines. This puts the solar panels and line direct signals in position locations into triangulation box and box triangulation into a solar graphic calculation setting of dimensional waves and line rotation centers and cross signals is that location. Okay, very powerful stuff done by equation. All right, so that can center out. So everything to provision location is going through direct and redirect. Okay, direct and redirect. Okay, that's all you're doing. So there's no past, there's no present, and there's no calculation of the future. So inline interference is not like this anymore. It's like this in box location. Future's here now. It's always in box. Always in box. Point systems and 3 location. All right. So you're working with 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 set locations. All right. 3 in the bottom, 3 at the side, 3 at the side, and 3 at the top. Clock line, center line interference, and a 24 equals line calculation setting into 144 graph communications into a map that signifies calculation lines, not just in space modulation, not just anomalies, but in track locations of balance in line rotation centers of yin and yang and process communication. Okay, done by equation. All right, so everything's set up through pi. Pi direct signal locations of pi settings, alpha line rotation, and travel communications. Indicates line centered across the streams. Okay, now unique calculations of box line, calculation line interference, 2 line track locations. That indicates lines of 3 in position of 4, in position of 5, in position of 6 inside the line settings. Track to its correlation setting 6 crosses lines, goes in routers, sets lines at correlation setting into 5 line setting locations, 5 generation streams, and 5 bounce position location. Position of track lines bounce line rotation centers. Track to its correlation setting to a new crop circle line position locations into 144 graphical screen line calculation setting and a 24 line signal is that location. Done by equation. All right, taking that out. So an X line center, X equals lines of, 1,000 line settings, 3 bracket locations of 3 sets. Okay. Now, once you understand that, you're always working with 7, you're always working with 12, right? 12 is the foundation, 7 is the bodies of water. You're always working with 7, you're always working with 12. That's never going to leave your system. The only thing you have to understand is the clocking line set location of 24 into 1500 now. It's set location travel. Okay? Because you pass the 13 and you pass the 14. All right? So the provision line cycle is high calculation stream location settings. So minus lines of 0 and line rotation. Okay? So a direct line calculation setting into tomorrow line signals, you guys are going to be in 1600 locations. Okay? And then you're going to be into 1700 locations. Okay? So then 18, and you go into 19, okay? Then you go into 20, and then you go into 21, you go into 22, then you go into 23, okay? Weighting on signal line calculation setting is 48 equals lines, box line, frame line equals lines, calculation, weighting on signal location equals 144, okay? All right, so that's waiting on signal. Now, understanding the pi calculation settings through direction is really understand how to use your surface. Now you got security perimeters of parameters and line rotations of box line rotation setting. Track locations indicate line rotations. So this is where you were working with 1, 2, 3, 4. You got that? Setting position track lines. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 indicates lines are here. Okay, equals the correlation setting and track lines. Okay, this is the future now in center position, right? That equals lines of 3. 7 goes at the top. That triangulates the reset position programs into a new line calculation at test rec. Calculates time interference in waving line rotations and travels into your pyramid of set location of set location line settings. Now this comes into film strips and line rotation setting and track locations into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 locations. Okay, so that's how it's set up now through graph and screen. Okay, so no past, no present. The box line centers, E equals line sending location. It's not mass anymore. Its position location is all levels of metric, scale, balance, yin and yang, process line division, and 4 calculations of 3 sets. 3 sets. Okay? Pyramid lines, elixir, cosmic plane, cosmic flyer, calculation of 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. Okay? So 3 line settings, pi, position of track, pi, position of track. Direct and communication settings into intelligence and information line set location of travel lines is that position operation. Intelligence stream is that location travel. There it is. Done by equation. See the face? Neckline, streamline, high center interference, road graphic location setting attraction. Done by equation. Okay. Outwitted screen lines calculation of the colossal lines, high center interference, travel position location, high center interference, travel position location operation surface, setting coordinates and setting travel. See? Setting locations, neck lines, calculation high interference, clustral, calculations, shoulder lines, and stream locations. Okay? Now, the indicated high interference, waving line cycles, 2x 2000s high position of programs, directing communication across the lines into send position operation. Flux capacitor comes down, stream location to setting. Travel line center line interference, box line rotation surface, and a new pattern, new line rotation surface and allocations. Travel direction of time sequence comes in all communication setting attractions. All levels of modification to a system. Okay? Waving panels, alpha lines, delta and theta line rotation of 3 lines of measures. Accordingly, high center interference and travel communication settings attractions. Putting line calculation settings into all set locations. Look at this. Look how powerful this is since that is from travels. Line position of travel communication. So it's amazing how you set things up, location to settings, right? So direction and time sequence crosses string locations. Mechanism high settings, 4 lines, 5 position locations, 2 panels, 2, 2, 2 track locations, a high center interference, and position location of colossal line calculation setting into line communication travel setting. Okay? That way equation. All right. Knowing exactly what you see through intelligence information shows everything through that set of locations. All right. All right, so setting position track lines, we go through colossal line change. Direct line communication setting attractions. Opens all signals. Modification of setting and track location. See? Intelligence. Always working with intelligence. Because now we're in the colossal line calculation setting. Center line communications and waving patterns. Brain convergent line set line can high center infinity cycles and high calculation setting of travels. Communication setting attraction. Now, in that line calculation setting, we come into the line setting and 2 panels correlation setting to the sun and the moon of traction. Okay. Get in that position travels. All centers communication setting and travel communication. Okay. Directing line calculation center lines opens all signals. Now, when you open up the signals, you got to be very cautious on what you're doing through operation surface and ground line communication. Okay. Now that calculation set lines high center interference. Sun comes in the left lines or right and opens all communication panels and line rotation surface and triangulation. Okay. Time by equation. So metric scales calculation now is back in balance of 24 lines coming in at 48, 72, 144 graphical screen location settings of a map sequence to a star map line setting. Now the travel communication settings locations, star line setting, star line setting, star line setting, star line setting of 4 travel locations, 4 box line rotations, and 3 set location line systems. Travel calculation on point systems, point, 3, 3, 3, 3. Sets position travels. Now direct locations into a diamond core line, shift line, rotation box line. Calculates line surface, sets line interference and travel communications, opens all calculation stream location setting and calculation line and rotation, and highest setting line interference. And on the high position of face recognition settings, opens all track twist communications, opens all line centers to new ground lines, operation service to a triangulation reset program, calculates high center pyramid line rotation and travel communication. See this spherical sphere, location of center lines and position of travels. Boom. Okay. Serves correlation of travel lines of 2 lines of 3 lines and 4 lines of high set position. Set location is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24. 24 is set location of graph lines. Now we go into 12 lines and a 24 line signal, line rotation to your pyramid, line connection, high center, have projection. Now the projection line calculation setting sets positions of plateaus. Yes, plateaus in communication and travel. Okay, done by equation. Waiting on signal, modification one line center. It's applications. Okay, so we got one platform, waiting on line rotation to one dimensional door setting in rotation surface. Waiting on signal for that set locations. All right. So in that modifier, we come back in division. Okay. So that division line interference opened up the Stargate panels. The Stargate panels waits on signal location to its capsule. Capsule communication setting all levels. Cluster correlation setting, attract to its communication setting, set position to its operation. Okay, down by equation. Okay, so that's out through equation. So everything travels in line centers. So everything's box line rotations, E. So the equal line calculation setting is now balanced between equal line calculation stream locations. That indicates high center locations into pi, indirect signal, and position travel lines. Directing communication lines across the stream location as setting. Position location to its system, and travel calculations. Right? Mechanism high travel line center location your system, travel communications. See? Boom. All right. All right, so the center communication comes in this setting. Remember, the crop circles are extremely important to the molecular structure of light. Now, the travel communication set lines into a pyramid line. It rotates surface and routers. Sets location of graph lines and films direct location setting and traction. Okay? Look how powerful that is. All right, so we got 2 panels, line calculation to 3 lines. Open signal and modification line settings and high travel communication. Okay? Now, in that direct setting location, we come to the box line. Now, this comes into, I'll say location. Now, this is a tapestry line position to its volume. The center line says communication to its atom, to its molecular structure, and center rotation, center calculation. Directing signals, panel communication, 3 lines at high setting. That my equation. All right. So it's knowing how to set these things up through vision, through your sectors, vectors, and your quads. Center calculation, center calculation, center calculation. 3 panels, right? Point systems and direction. Point system is a center line connections, and point line centers into your magnetic highway information line cycles, high center location of travel, and position to its operation. All right. So in that calculation lines, 3 weather line rotation patterns in set locations. All right. Travels lines that indicate high interference and mind adaptation of surface and conscious location of streams. Direct correlating eye line rotation, eye position setting, high setting. Travel communication into all levels of Asgard in line position location, high setting, and travel communication. Done by equation. Okay. So the conscious stream line, the center correlation setting to gravel line interference is now in positional travel line. Sets at 24 ground, 24 position line connection of power line, and 24 atmosphere line stream location magnetic highway information line cycle. Sets position location to 24 line interference of higher self, connection line interference of avatar, and position location to its sim, and set location. Sets 3 over provision, 4 over cycle, 5 element line centers in calculation of 3, 8 division, 8 rotations into your ESP. Your external sensory perception lines is an 8 waving line cycle in an infinity line rotation and surface and position traction. Done by equation. See the light bulb? Boom. Okay, it's all set up. All right, so that's going to travel out. How are we doing today in provision line rotation? It's calculated, isn't it? Trying to understand everything that's going on through all set locations of film strips, and everything has to be updated to a certain sequence location setting, all through track locations. So we get 1 lines, 2 lines of modification, right? So if you know how to do a formula line rotations, I'll do this very quick. Across the stream locations in a box, and question mark line calculation, Fibonacci swirl. 2 waving patterns Now we got two position location of pyramid lines, one mountain surface, and triangulation. Okay, so how do you set up hieroglyphic line calculations, cross line, streamlines of pi, and direct signal? Now, position track lines always has a crop circle location setting. Okay, your reason why you have a crop circle after you set location your formulas, calculation XD1000 comes in. Sees what you've done, right? Scans position to all level setting, scans everything, because it puts everything in position locations before you get in line communication or setting through its operation surface and triangulation. Okay, now once you get into that, it comes into an energy wash and 24 ground lines, high center interference, high position of the sun and position of the moon is location travel calculation. Okay, there's the solar sail. All right, so as that's set up, it's set up through all calculations to, we got the hydro lines. Now hydro lines, its indication line interference into 1 equals lines of colossal, communicates line stream at center location lines of pi, direct and communication lines of 4, direct and communication lines of 3, direct and communication lines of 7, 7, 7, 7 locations, and port of communication. Okay, so direct line calculation setting crop circle again, but this time we're going to go through all line rotations and balance communication settings of all levels of high set location. Okay, formation, intelligence. Look at that, the abundance, the cup. There's the cup, right? See the cup? Position and track lines comes to all set location in your system. Calculated, modified, and line rotations comes into your settings. You guessed it, all line communications to all set locations to your crown. All done through equation. Okay. Okay, so that's going to go through modifiers. Modulation streamlines. So we go through the alpha line rotation and travel communications. It's on monotone. So these signal lines of communication, right? Now this indicates all settings. Now we get into the molecular structure locations, zero lines. Sets position locations. So we're getting communication lines of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 location setting traction, right? 7 modulators, 7 positions, and 7 communication. All right. So graphing communication. All right. Rounds about, line rotation, location grid. Location grid crosses stream location of setting. Okay. Opens up new panels, indirect signal into 3 loops in set location. Okay. Generation streamlines, center communication stream locations and setting. Okay. Now, once you get into that line interference, you come in energetic graph locations. Okay. And again, you're working with the location setting lines, the high center interference of Asgard. Okay. So what we're doing is we're just adding symbols and line calculation setting into box line rotations into data streams, high volume maintenance line signature stream location circuits, and all position location near panels and calculation stream location as high settings into 24 line stream location. Okay, that by equation. It's all set up. Boom. Right. So we go with all calculation alpha equal lines of delta equal line conversion of theta. Now it's all set up. Set location line settings into all position location new crop circle line interference. Indirect signal comes in 1 line signature positions of panels and a new triangulation reset program and set location of your system into your pyramid as stream location. Now this indicates high center location of film strips and 7 line tractions in set position operation. Done by equation. Very complicated stuff, guys, but know exactly how to set these things up through formula is extremely powerful to set position travels. Okay? How are we doing so far? It's exciting, isn't it? Very excited? Should be. Okay, it lifts and glides like a giant marshmallow. Yeah, you could say that. Set position travels. Yeah, I could see the crystals with the ship. Yeah, it's all pyramid formation. Yeah. So what I'm giving you guys is with all the information you already know anyway in position travels, but it's very powerful when you really understand how to get your systems and location your settings, all through modification, face recognition. Okay. Okay, those are going to be waiting on signal for tomorrow line streams. right? So the more we get in position of fast lines, but the more we come into formulas, right? So point system line calculation is a box line rotations of 2-point systems and 3 track location settings and traction. Get into triangulation reset positions of pi. Pi indicates location of 1. Now 1 indicates line calculation. You have to direct and redirect, direct and redirect. Remember, you're working with numbers, letters, shapes, and symbols, so your direct location setting and travel communication near pi. Okay, pi indicates line center, so open signal. X2000 there. Come in line rotation, scanning position. Scan, 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 scans everything in set location travel. Okay? Once it gets in line calculation setting, it opens all levels of graph locations. Protects its line settings and location. Okay? Now, in that position of travel lines, we come into laser grids. Point systems, point system, point system, point system, point system. Okay? Now that line calculation setting, the X2000 crosses line settings, goes in a waving pattern in the opposite direction. Okay? So it goes up this way because it's got to get back into its center line communications and setting. Okay? Once it gets there, it formulates line calculation setting to another portal that goes through line settings to a magnetic highway information line panel and set in operation. Sets position travel lines and goes through and positions back into the sun and the moon in line position of travels and phase recognition of time sequence and all calculation. Mega multi-pass. Okay? So it's amazing when you come into the formula communications, right? Remember, the sun is a portal from in and out, and the moon is a track location of computer operations surface. It tracks its location settings to its Wi-Fi. Satellites its position location to its consoles and its communication patterns. But you have to understand how to get into modified calculation settings to your identities and really understand how it goes beyond. Yeah, exactly. That's what's way beyond phenomena now because you guys are in molecular structures. And anybody that's in locations of the God particle, their atoms or their mortals, line set locations, it's the same thing. It's the same application. You're just learning through calculations of your memories. Coming back in your memory, how it comes in a phenomenon, how it comes in a channel, how it comes in operation, is all through structure of design, okay, through formula. Okay, so in that calculation, I'm going through 3 energetic wave lines. We got alpha line rotation, delta, and position location of theta. Okay, so it's a theta communications, high setting. Okay. Now, remember, you can change the set location line settings. You guys have to get used to your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols where you can change theta to teleportation, where you can change it to the hemisync, where you can basically understand calculations to its energy line and changes to its calculations to its telegraphing and set locations to its atmosphere, set locations, right? Travel line settings, all level rotation, and center line communication. Okay? So it's really understand how to set position travel lines and point systems. Okay, through the sun and through the moon of modification. All right. Track locations, 1 panel, line centers, open solve signals, and position of portals in line communication. Okay, done by equation. So we have a colossal channel now, 24 grams. Remember, this is position line condition getting 24, 48, 72, and 144 of a calendar. So the higher self and the avatar and the sim can really understand the meteorological set location to a setting that systematically aligns its communication of balance. How to use it through provision, how to use it through operation, how to use it through energetic patterns, how to use it through weather communications. Okay, there's a reason why it's at 144 equal correlation settings 24, 24, 24, and 24 line settings into a diamond core line rotation of set location. Grounds, powers, atmosphere. Okay? So 24 equals line calculations at 144, 144, and 144, and 144. Okay, that's what we're coming into, right? So once we get into the 144 mapping sequence, everything through your solar systems get a lot more direction settings. This is where we come into our calculation setting into string. String lines calculation of 3 lines of rotation in set position travels. Molecular structure lines into atom lines, implications into mortal, and communications. Indicate high line instead of center, center, center position, operation. Center track calculation of point systems, point systems, point systems, location. Okay? Modify highline interference, closet calculation, Hall settings, all through the sun and the moon through location. Direct and communication lines of panels, line rotation surface and triangulation reset position of programs. Direct and communication lines of circle line, calculations of panel lines, and stargate, star portals, star line rotation surface and triangulation reset position location. Done by equation. All right. And so it's a lot of circle lines rotation, circulation, rotation. That's what you guys are working with. Circulation, rotation. There's an atom. Okay. So atom now equals lines of molecule. Okay, molecule structures line division. So the atom is in surface line acceleration, right? Turns into yin and yang. Okay. So the faster it goes, it disappears. But the molecular structure can change the provision of cycles very, very fast. Setting position here, setting position here, setting position here. This is what a molecular structure can do in position faster than you can say I. Because there's no I in division, it doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is you, who's center operation of yin and yang. Okay. All right. So like I said, it's going to get more complicated now, but when you really understand the provision line cycles, you get a better track location of settings, how to really understand the operation surface, how it triangulates and resets position of programs, how you really have to understand how to use the energy lights, the stream interference, high position location of this program that indicates its set locations of pi. Okay. All right. So we got one bracket string, calculation setting, and 0 operation. Okay. Now that indicates lines of box into triangulation line position, operation surface, triangulation reset position locations and patterns into its pyramid. Now there's 2 patterns, set location to 3 lines. That's an indicate I interference, 3 triangulation resets. Okay. Coming into this position location of setting, drive calculation lines, hide line rotations to center lines of communication, 0 operation. Okay. Getting that calculation line interference gets a line division in 1 setting. Okay. Set locations of 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 line position. Pyramid. Right? You always work on your pyramids. Remember that. So pyramid line calculation setting no XT1000. XT1000 modification line interference. Positions colossal calculating lines of 3 line rotations in pi and center communications of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and set location. Okay. Coming into pi calculations of 1 in position of 2 in position of 3 and 4. Comes into energetic cloud and line rotation center line communications. This puts detection stream location at center. Now, it gets very complicated. So you really understand the communication of your panels and your pyramid line rotations. See? Understand the graph communications. See? So it's in pyramid and a pyramid and a pyramid, right? That's what it is. That's what a molecule can structure do now. You can go pyramid, pyramid, pyramid. Atom just surfaces line communications, but pyramids and pyramids are all set location molecular structure is set location, right? So you're changing track lines and pyramid line streams. Pyramid here, and position locations, 2 line settings, and line rotations. Pyramid here, line calculations, locations. Okay? All through clouds. All right? All right. So there's a dimensional line signature heater, and that heater modifies line calculation setting. Gets into those location lines. Metrics equals scales. Scales equals balance. Balance equals metric. Okay. So there's always balance on each side. Balance position locations in setting. Balance location center interference location. So we understand the balance line center is a center line in position location is space line in position of time sequence of yin and yang and process communication. Right? All right. So line position location to its hemisync, systematic lines of its energy. The atmosphere line crosses stream, tele-waving line interference, energy travel communications, relay programs, direct location metric scales, balance position location space, balance location of time, systematic line calculation setting, and block line rotation in 2 position lines of 3 panels communication travels, mechanism high center interference into program set location system, travel communications, opens all dimensional door lines and signify calculation stream locations. That my equation. All right. So we got position lines of panels in your pyramid and film projections and 3 line rotations. Okay. So You have to really understand how this all works now, guys. Pay attention to your systems, right? Because it coordinates high interference if you're anomaly location or channel lines. Changes location of settings because you got 24 grounds, 24 powers, 24 atmospheres. It's already set, right? Weighting line rotation is set location. You got your 114 equals line calculation setting. Infinity line interference equals correlated settings at 144 equal to lines of 4 equals pi is that location. Okay. So once you understand the powers and line calculation settings, center line or operation, magnetic highway information line cycles, set your pyramid in position of traction. So you're going to be working a lot with your pyramids now in film projector in 5 lines, 6 and 7 locations. Okay. Now this indicates line interference, XT1000, XT1000, XT1000. It's more modification, more line settings, right? Travel position locations, center lines, 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 and set location. Okay? Done by equation. All right? So the more scales you set up, more balanced lines, the more signature stream location settings of plateaus comes into platforms to your pyramid set location. And side connections. Okay? All right, so travel direction timelines. Now you're working with line communication, all level settings, all right? 3 position line connections. Okay, understand what I'm doing in line rotation. Okay, now getting in position to cross and stream, cross and stream, cross and stream. Okay, it's very complicated stuff, right? But understand the 0 lines, 0 lines, 0 lines, and 0 line communication. Indicates all calculations setting to, you guessed it, your pyramid. Everything works inside. So the molecular structure now understands the visual location of center lines and goes through its platforms of higher levels of communication is center line communication. Visionary cortex, a phenomenal line into the center of all operation, all calculation, stream locations, in position, location, and traction. Okay? See how it changes the high setting and position travels? Amazing how you change position line conditions. All right, so I just want you to know exactly what you guys are coming into with your class. Mechanism lines as cerebral cortex calculation stream location dimension line settings as screens. Energetic graph lines and box lines and 2-line rotation centers and 0 operation. Center line conditions of 0 lines, bracket locations of box location settings and 3 weather patterns, direct communication settings and tractions, cross the stream. Box lines cross the stream, the opposite direct signal. Calculation, triangulation, resets goes in the center communication of box triangulation and circle of triangulation. Okay. Now we all understand how basically an atom sets line communication, but you have to understand a molecule can go through different structure lines. They can morph into anything line rotations, box and triangulation to a triangulation box, right? So it can reset positions of patterns in 3-line rotations, 4-line divisions, and 7 locations. Okay. So it's getting a lot more quicker and faster now through point systems, right? Point, 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 point. So you got 4-line rotations of box, right? And you got a 0-line communication of Fibonacci and sun in communication of the moon of operation surface. Everything works inside. Nothing's left outside. So in that line connections, you can set up energetic graph lines up the equation. But if you do that, next T1000 comes in, right? Next T1000 comes in. Scans position of what you just finished doing through center communications. Okay, scans positions of what you've done through center communication, right? Comes in, calculation setting to a theta. Box line position, travel lines, center lines and communication, center lines of communication. Setting position location of box line rotations. See the box, center communication, travels lines in 3 lines, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 locations. Look how complicated that is. All through a film strip of a videograph line calculation of TV step location setting their stream locations. See the TV? Gets complicated, right? But that's what it's all about. Crisscross, crisscross, crisscross. Okay, very powerful what we're coming into set location of travel lines. How to mechanize the communications of our TV reception line settings. Okay? All right, so waiting on signal for that position. All right, so the condition of the schematics line says a bracket surface. bracket here, right? 2-point system, 0 here, 1 here. So 2 lines of setting, sets lines across lines of 3. Okay, 3 line coordinate settings. Remember, you're always working with 3 and 4, 4 and 3, because it's always location of center of operation. So you tell them the 7 line communication come into this pyramid. Sets position of traction, right? Sets position of traction, right? So in that position, you close it up in high setting, right? Sets locations, scan setting, line rotation, send line rotation interference, travel communication. So once you get into that, you're working with 7 lines of 24 line rotation centers. That's 24 line signal, 24 line rotation, 24 grounds, and 24 sidelines. Okay, so you're working with diamond core line, shift line, stream locations, box line rotation, 2 settings, travel communications, sun comes in, moon comes in, protect line calculation setting into its pyramid of activation. There's the pyramid, there's the cyclone. Okay, so it's really understand how it's set up position of travel. I said through its location, its equation set, location settings, and travel settings. So you're working with the mechanism lines, your pyramid, a film strip location setting, and travel communications. Pyramids inside. Okay. So when it travels out, it goes to higher line communication, right? Higher line division, higher line dimensions, a galaxy, other universe location of settings and travels. Okay. Done by equation. And if you look really close, you can see the intelligence. There's the eyes looking like this. Okay. There's the eyes looking like this. Okay. Know exactly how to use everything inside line connections because that's all inside you. Everything is inside. Nothing is outside. Everything's inside locations. Okay. How we doing so far? Are we having fun yet? What's going on? Wow, 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 wow. But it's incredible how you come in at face recognition and time sequence, right? All through your pyramid settings. Because the thing is, we're going to keep that in signal, but it's very powerful when you see this. Try to understand the significance of what it is in line rotations all through TV section line calculation. Okay? Because all you're working with is fields itself, and that's what you're coming back to. That's all it is. It's incredible when you come to that set locations. Crossing line, center line, conditions of box, crossing line, center locations, inner locations, alpha line, rotation center. Okay? Now, the reason why we cross things, it goes like this line setting. Opens all signals across the stream. Okay? So this is this. Right? This is this. This becomes this. Okay? Higher levels of setting into stargates. Okay? So in that line connection high center, you calculate 24 into 48 into 72, 144, okay, in set position travel. Now in 144, calculate high interference. It depends on what you're working with the center communication, your settings, high position. So it's seconds, minutes, and hours are set location of center. Okay, you're working with the seconds, minutes, and hours, all right? Triangulation of 3 sets in travel locations. Okay, now that lines its communication across signals. Okay, that is the clocking system, right? Through Stargate panels into 144 graph. Okay, so 144 comes up in position locations, 24 equals lines, waiting on signal to 144 at the top location, right? 24 lines comes out and line center interference. So in that line rotation interference, you got 48, you got 72, and you got 144 in position of traction. Okay, that's how it works. So the sun comes on to each line calculation. Once you go through 24 all the way around the clock, then the sun comes in and protects the system to its location of its position at all levels of pattern. Okay? So now you understand why you see these things, from afar. But when you look really, really close, you can see the open signal, right? So I want you to understand how this sets up through provision lines of travel communications, right? Or through forming those equations. So we're going to wait on signal with that line. So forming this equation line settings to your molecular structure line division location is going to get more complicated. Okay, so this is how it comes into your reality. Okay, your clock line says, okay, so it's 2 point systems. Okay, we got 10 lines and line calculations of point systems. Now that changes lines, so that's 60 seconds, equal line calculations, 0 gravity. Okay, now one thing is going to change is the filter lines of 19. It can go to 20 or goes to 21 or go back to 18. So it goes up and it goes down. That's what it does, the process, right? So it all depends on volume. It all depends on traffic because that's what we're working with every single day. This is how it comes in your reality through your clocking location, your location on the cloud lines, or anything in location to your watch line, center location, your settings. So equal line calculation setting, the position track lines, equal line height interference of 6 locations. Thumbs up, right? So that's 6 lines of coordinating setting, 2 operations, server location system at balance. So remember I was saying about the balanced communication lines of 0, 0 and set position travel lines? You got one here, set position of point here, and set location travel lines. As long as the ones are indicated in settings, it's in position location of positive equals pi. Positive equals pi, calculation high center, right? If the online center location of 0 line, communication line center interference, sets position location of 1 lines in point system, and traffic calculation settings of 1 line in point system is 0 set locations, is off balance because it's not indicated 1, 1, right? Balance correlation comes in an H. H is always information, which is your heart. Ooh, look at that. Position line calculation setting. So that's not going to work, but this is going to work. You see how it becomes an H line? That's a high calculation setting, the high line interference, and the heart direction of time sequence comes in panel communication, in position line calculation setting, traffic communication. Now, in direct signal and high position locations, if this is off balance, that's indicated high interference of underscore, okay, equal lines of pi, in calculation settings, and negative. That's negative over pi, right? So that doesn't mean it's in position levels going past. It's just directing and redirecting panels of communications. So you indicate line interference, change the 0 line communication, put the 1 in front, change the indication, put this line position point systems and back force line rotations, redirect panels, line communications, bring in line communications to all levels, bring the 1 in front communications. Now you get an H line centers and panel communication setting, the traffic communication line interference, indirect locations of 1 colossal calculation stream location of indicated high interference, and all line rotations into tablets and templates and all balance and communication settings, all space-time gravel line rotation centers of box location. Mega multi-pass, right? Now, there's so many ways of looking at these things, the graph locations, right? But it's all about understanding how to put everything back in its balance, right? Through indications through your decimals, right? Because we're going to go more into that now because your molecular structure of light, and that's how it signals the lines. It doesn't have an interference of atom anymore. It's a molecular structure of its own intelligence. So you have to understand how to go through set location settings and retract division extremely fast and provision because you're working with all calculations of billion cycles now per second. But you're always working with positional clock lines of 24. Okay. Now you're in 1500 line rotations. Okay. 31 lines. 100 hours line rotations, that's 3,000 lines, 1 metric stream location of 2 operation settings of 2 panels. Direct and communication lines, set position travel lines of pi. Calculate high interference, line calculation settings 1600, and line rotation setting track lines, which we come into split of pi. Direct and communication lines, set location of 17. Calculation line centers, split of pi. Split location line centers, location of 18. Split locations, split location 19, split of pi. In direction. Come in line position location center lines in your affinity 8 and line communication in your flywheel and redirection. Direct and communication line settings, all levels of balance, all levels of position, all levels of travel, all position location calculation, high interference in your position locations, in your molecular structures of design line position to its system, and all line connection, high center interference of future adaptation. Okay? Mega multi-pass. All right? We're done. So, how does everybody feel about that now? Whoa, your sim is getting a lot of line connection high centers of data. It's all process of communication programs. But I'm just saying you're in faster communication now, right? What are we in line interference? We're 19.6, now we're at 27. Is that a coincidence? No. 7 is the indications to what? Bodies of water. Back to 19 is what? 1 line settings of an energy wash. back into 20 location, right? So every time you add line center locations, all settings, the molecular structure of light knows how to set up provisional locations into 114. Your track location now is line calculation setting to high line position. Now open through signal and position travel lines into high calculations, which means that all levels of your 114, okay, is now in provisional locations into its new grounds. Okay, so we got the ground lines. You got 114 open to 114 and ground lines and set locations. Tomorrow lines, you guys will be in set positional line conditions to your security lines. Okay, so all security 114 will be open up. Okay, in provision. That's where we center line communications, all settings, in line rotation, center line interference, in locations, all levels, high calculation setting into Pluto. Okay. All right, that's it. Done my equation. Hooah! So, as I've been doing so far, it's incredible how you come to formula, eh? And really understand the provision line cycles and how it really sets your system location of your tones. But you understand your metric screens because it sets the location of your settings and through its operation surface. Really understand the provision location line settings to your keyboards because it gets in calculations set in high position locations. Balance, okay, and position location of 3 line settings, right? So you got balance, inline setting, okay. You got bound and set location line center interference, okay. And you got position of bringing, okay. Bring the balance all levels, calculation settings of bounds of information line interference and information cycles, highest allocation of pyramids and line rotation of film strips and the line center interference and child communications, right? There's so many ways. There's so many ways to balance out your settings of space and time. Space and time is just understanding the left and right and left location of your system. Right over left and left over right communications, how you indicate your settings, right? It's so easy, so easy. Don't track interference of negative line rotations, any communication with settings, because off lines its position locations and puts you into a dark round, dark cloud, dark line rotation interference into a black hole and set location. You don't want to be in a black hole, not at your level. Okay, you don't just go back in the past, you go back in time. And if you go back in time, you're creating back in time that brings forward a time position location. You're living in the future equals the now equals the past. Oops. Okay, you don't want to do that because that's what molecular structure can do. It can create an anomaly and set positions back in locations, change the formations, neutralize the correlation setting, track this correlation setting to put you back in the past, but bring the past line into the future of the now and the right rotation interference. Now you're living in cyclic communication settings into all calculations of the future of the past. You're in the past. You're not in the future of the now. You understand that? So I really want you to understand how to put your positions to your settings through all calculations of your system because you have zero gravity now. You can't have any negative interline rotations. Okay? That's it. See you in 5. Doo-doo.